Hey everyone, welcome back. We're in our new unit, number 4. In this unit, we are going to transition out of medieval Europe and talk about how several European nations became absolute monarchies. We're going to start off in this video talking about Spain and their rule under Philip II. So make sure you're in your interactive notebook and you're following along. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. We're on page 2 of your interactive notebook. And again, we're talking about the age of absolutism, and we're going to look at Spain as our first example. So let's get started with our essential question. Today's essential question states, how was Philip II able to rule with a strong hand during a time of religious and economic instability? So if we back up a little bit and let's talk about where Spain was in this time period. So let's start with the 1500s. You'll remember we left off in the Middle Ages towards, the 1600s. And so we're picking up there. So as early as the 1500s, Spain grew into basically a world power, pretty much thanks to the discovery and the exploitation of new lands. The conquistadors, which were Spanish soldiers and explorers, they went through and kind of conquested, get it? Conquistador, conquered, not conquested, conquered in the parts of America. So parts of Northern America, Latin America, and South America. So Spain is profiting off of that. By 1554, Spain was the richest empire in the world. So they were doing pretty well. Entered here Philip II, lovely portrait of him. By 1556, he inherits Spain from his father as well as all of Spain's possessions. By 1580, he decides to also seize Portugal, which is the narrow strip of land that's adjacent to Spain. And he acquires gold and silver from the Americas. And again, this makes the Spanish Empire extremely wealthy at the time. At this time, he was a devout Catholic, and he's looking to expand his kingdom. I mentioned the fact that he's a Catholic because it's going to get him into some squabbles. This time period, we're going to see a lot of Catholic versus Protestantism. It's kind of the remnants of the Protestant Reformation that we talked about in the previous unit. And we're going to see how some monarchies want to hold on to Catholicism and some want to stress Protestantism. Philip II was, as I said, a devout Catholic. He's going to defend it against the Muslims and the Protestants. It's going to get him into trouble with the English, and he develops the Spanish Armada. He wants to get back at Elizabeth I. If you remember, she was a devout Protestant as a descendant from her father, Henry VIII. So he decides he doesn't like that she's Protestant. He's pro-Catholic, so he wants to invade England. So he builds the Spanish Armada, which is a fancier Spanish word for a Spanish fleet or a navy, large navy. He really hoped to overthrow Elizabeth I with this Spanish Armada, and he wasn't very successful. The Spanish Armada was defeated. A lot of his ships are lost at sea, as well as his men. With that defeat, the Spanish Empire starts to slowly but surely weaken. It holds on, but not for too much longer. So what are some of the things that go into making the Spanish Empire weaken? First off, we have inflation and taxes. Population during this time period was growing. The merchants decide to increase prices because of people, and they're, all these people are demanding goods and services and food, so they can raise the price. We also see that the Spanish begin taxing the lower classes because Spain expelled the Jews and the Muslims out of Spanish provinces. So they're going to take advantage of the lower class, which they're not going to be very happy. Spain also at this time, unfortunately, was making its enemies rich. Spaniards went to different places abroad. They spent their money. Basically, because they're spending money in other places, they're making Spain's enemies rich. Philip actually declared bankruptcy at least 3 times due to the the weakening of the economy in Spain. So Spain was not doing so hot at the end of his reign. He also got involved in several religious wars. Again, he's defending Catholicism tooth and nail, and he becomes an extreme enemy and target of the Protestants. At this time period, a location known as the Netherlands, which is in kind of Northern Europe, were under the Habsburg control, family known as the Habsburgs, and they were mostly Protestant. Philip heavily taxed them, causing them to revolt, and he creates a religious war. England pledged to help the people of the Netherlands, also known as the Dutch, to fight the Spanish. And in 1759, the Protestants in the Netherlands won independence from Spain. One thing I want to talk about real quick, and it's super off task, but I talked about the Habsburgs, and this was like kind of a pet peeve of mine. It kept coming up in mind that I spelled it wrong because I spelled it Hapsburg. The European way of spelling it is H-A-B. The American way is H-A-P. So if you are getting an error saying that you spelled it wrong, it's because you're spelling it the American way and the computer doesn't like it. So anyway, it was driving me nuts, and I didn't want you guys to be like, oh, she made a typo, because you all always tell me that when I make a typo. So anyway, if you can either spell it with a B or a P, doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's Philip II's rule. By the end of his reign, the economy isn't doing so hot in Spain. He's losing possessions. Again, he's lost the Netherlands. So he wasn't a very effective ruler at the time. But again, he was an absolute ruler while he was in place. Next time we are going to talk about France, so make sure you tune in for that. Thanks for watching.